Hey there. So, this kind of energy came to me as sort of a juxtaposition of old and new. Specifically, something that is beloved, that has been beloved for a long time, whether that is a partner, a passion, just something that is a deeply rooted love. But the new part kind of feels like a idea or an approach, or like an example, someone who's been married for like 30 years but starts like a new date night tradition, something like that kind of reinvigorates an old situation in a new way. And I like that. So I kind of want to know what is going on here and what you might expect from this old situation being given a little bit of new light. So we have Venus Mallow, delicate fleeting beauty, peony, prosperity and compassion, and Violet, faithfulness and modesty. Then we have the Chariot, the Two of Swords, and the Queen of Pentacles. So I think that, like, whatever this situation is, they're being non-specific as far as, is this relationship, is this career? So I think it's more like a general vibe, and kind of like take it how it resonates, because it'll resonate a little bit differently for each person in the collective, where I think that this is a situation that is very enduring in its stability, in its nurturing. Like, if this is a career, this is a career that you could hypothetically just, like, do up until the day you die, and it's not something that's like burning you out and making you feel exhausted. It's something that you feel very at home at. I think that there may have been periods of growth or excitement that felt like a little bit more like transient. With the Venus Mallow over the Chariot, it's like things have moved forward. I don't think that it's like fully stagnant, but it's sort of like, if you're in a relationship like this, for example, it would be like, maybe you had a big rush of excitement or honeymoon energy, getting to know each other, and then you had some big milestones, whether that's like moving in together, making things official, and things have kind of like a comfortable rhythm now. Again, it doesn't feel like stagnant, but it does feel comfortable, and it does kind of feel like, with this peony over the Two of Swords, that there may be some like uncertainty about not wanting to upset the balance, not because it feels precarious, but because it is good. It is sustainable. Like I said, if this is a career, you're like, I could do this till the day that I die. So like, why should I be like taking unnecessary risks here? Or, if it's a relationship, it's like, well, I don't want to bring anything up with my partner because like I'm genuinely happy with them. But, I think that there may be a part of you that kind of also appreciates like those periods, however short, of forward momentum, whether that's like, say you're an artist and, you had an art show and you got some like important awards or, something like that. And now you're doing pretty well. You get enough commissions to get by. But, there's this sense of like, it would be really cool to have another art show. It would be really cool to like get my name out there some more. Type of an energy. Doesn't feel like anyone who's like dissatisfied with whatever situation it is we're talking about. So I think like that's an important confirmation. So I want to know what you need to know as far as what's going to kind of bring this next like phase of forward momentum. It's kind of interesting because this feels a little bit counterintuitive. We have the Hermit, the Four of Swords, and the Star. And it's almost like the best thing that you can do is take the time and stability that you have built in whatever this is to let yourself heal from the things and the wounds that were caused by situations other than this. I think that there are parts of you that can't always show up fully in this situation because of the way that other situations were handled. It's like, again, going back to the metaphor, if you're like an artist, maybe you do really well at like a specific style of like art or animation, but you really wanted to like branch out into like oil pastels, but you had this really unpleasant experience back when you were in school with like, professor who was like very critical of like your style with that medium, and you felt like, oh, I don't know if I'm really good enough at it. And it's like, you don't need to do oil pastels in order to, maintain your career here. Like, you're doing okay with, your animation style, but, it's almost like you have the stability from what you are already doing to kind of go back and like consider within yourself, like, why did I stop doing that? Like, what external situation burned me out or shut me down, and how do I make space for that part of me to kind of come from the inside outside? Because I think that like that part of you has always been, present. Like, maybe if this is a relationship, back when you were first starting to date, you would share a certain hobby or interest with your partner. Maybe that you had like a special show that you watched together, and like that was like something that facilitated a lot of closeness or discussion, but then the show got canceled, and so you stopped doing that. And I like that, like, this kind of feels like a visual journey here, because we start with the hermit, who's kind of has this star in his lantern. He's like holding it, he's looking at it, and then we have this Four of Swords, this rest, and then we have the star. It's kind of like taking that star, that thing that was valuable to you, and integrating it, embodying it. If we're talking about like the example of a favorite show, it's like, okay, well, maybe we stopped doing that because the show that we liked aired, but actually the thing that I really liked was just like having something new to discuss with my partner. So I'm gonna, like come out here and like find some more of my favorite shows to share with them, and realizing that it's like, even in, the absence of, that particular show that you were watching, you still have the capacity to embody that spark of connection that you really valued in your relationship. If we're talking about like the example with the pastels and the artist, it's like, okay, well, maybe my one professor didn't really like my pastel paintings, but I still own the pastels. I still enjoy that. I still incorporate a lot of like, the visual techniques into my digital art that I would have been doing with these pastels. Why not give it a shot? Why not give it a shot? I think it's about like realizing that the external circumstances don't define what made things special. Eight of Pentacles, it's like it's the skill that you have and the work that you put in. So what about this going forward? Does this collective need to know? Nine of Swords, Two of Pentacles, Ten of Cups, Page of Wands. So I think if you're not feeling any anxiety about this, it may be because you don't care all that much, which is not always a thing. But I think in this case, you may feel anxiety about, sharing that kind of art, or bringing up that kind of activity with your partner, whatever it is, not because it's wrong, but because it matters to you. And I think that, allowing that anxiety to exist, not as a deterrent, but as a indicator of importance and an indicator that something matters to you, is going to be something that helps a lot of things click into place, and I think is going to not take you back to the start in terms of rewriting all of your progress and experience, but I think they take you back to the start in terms of, with this like Page of Wands, the excitement that you felt, you know, when you first started stepping out on a new adventure, whether that adventure was like learning more about your partner or, you know, sharing your art with the world. You know, there's anxiety to it. There's like a sense of, what if people don't like this? Or, you know, what if I get it wrong? Or whatever else. But the thing is, you're not starting from the beginning. We're starting from the Ten of Cups, which is our happily ever after card. This is like the ever after. This is the ever after part that comes after. And I think it's normal to have some anxiety as you're shifting things around and figuring out, how does this fit into the life and stability that I have built? But I don't think that you have much to worry about, honestly. Death, it's transforming something that is already good into something that has space for even more of you. Four of Wands. I like that this is our 1111 Make-A-Wish card, because we have 2 wands and then 2 wands, so it's like 1111. It's transforming something that makes you happy into something that you always wished for. Very much energy of building on what works and making it better. You know, it's like you may have been someone who didn't initially have like the success or support that you wanted to, and you felt like you had to work for that. And so there's this sense of not wanting to do anything that upsets it. But I think that you have to remember that the foundation you've built is solid. And more than that, your skill in building it is solid. Whether that is a relationship that you've built, or, you know, a career that you love, or even just like a hobby that you're really passionate about, you have the skill. You have the skill and you have the foundation and you have support for that. And so adding on to that is simply going to be giving yourself more things to celebrate. And I think helping you to realize that the process of like continual transformation is not the enemy of joy. And yes, sometimes we have to step in to, you know, fix things that are making us unhappy, or, you know, adjust patterns that are rooted in, you know, difficulty or dysfunction. But a lot of times, you know, once you get to a certain point, growth is more about taking the good and making it better. You know, it's not like you have to strip the whole house down to the foundation to renovate. It's like you get to pick a new paint color. You get to, you know, add in some fun extras. So have fun with it. And yeah, I think that's about all I could say. I think you're already doing good, and this looks to be a fun little addition to whatever you already got going on. So hope you enjoy that, and best of luck out there.